Hello, I'm Joni Brennan, President of the Digital Identity and Authentication Council of Canada, and I'm going to talk to you today about digital ID for the digital economy and how you can amplify your investment and impact by co-creating with the DIACC. Let's look at the economic impact of identity within Canada. We estimate at least $15 billion or more is lost to the Canadian economy by not solving for digital identity. This is a conservative estimate, and it's roughly 1% of Canada's GDP, and we think the opportunity is magnitudes greater to realize more potential and benefit to the Canadian economy if we work together to solve the needs of digital identity. So what's the problem? Well, identity for the digital economy is broken. It costs around $236 per user to manage user ID and password related issues. And it costs around 600 hours and a loss of $16,000 in unrealized income for Canadians who've had their identity frauded or stolen. And it costs just under $6 million per incident for every Canadian company that has an identity data breach. It takes those companies around 173 days to identify that breach and 60 more days to contain the breach. We can do better. Canada needs a digital trust framework. That is to set a guide of rules and tools that will help the public and private sectors to unlock digital identity interoperability for good. This framework has to prioritize privacy, ensuring privacy by design, security, that we have the best security practices, and convenience of use, that every Canadian can take advantage of these solutions. And we believe that Canadians should have a right to know what data exists about them and their identities online. And in order to do this, citizens, governments, and businesses need the right tools to share and manage that identity data appropriately. And one thing that governments can do to take a lead is to prepare to issue digital evidence of identity that citizens can use in their government transactions as well as in their business transactions. So if you think about your driver's license, your health card, your provincial identity, or birth certificate, all of these can be issued digitally as well as in the paper world. We will look forward to governments taking a lead to issue digital evidence of identity that Canadians can use with confidence. And businesses and organizations can provide life-improving services and transactional context and technology that will improve specific functionalities, for example, around authentication. Everyone has a part to play, whether you're in the public or private sector. Identity is best solved by a village. And if we work together, we can put identity data control where it belongs, in your hands, in the hands of your users. So what could we solve with digital identity? Well, we could unlock service delivery. And in this case, when we're talking about service delivery, we're thinking about pensions and employment insurance. We're also thinking about delivering compelling new services from the private sector to Canadians to improve their lives. It could also deliver massive economic good. And so we believe that it's critical to provide opportunities for socio and economic growth for every Canadian by using identity services, whether they live in the packed city centers or the rural, sprawling landscapes. Every Canadian should have a right to contribute to, benefit from, and participate in the digital economy. So let's look at some impactful use cases to solving Digital Canada that require digital identity. First, opening a personal or business bank account remotely. If you think about how you do this today, you bring your paper identity, often into a banking branch, and you follow the procedures needed to fulfill the Know Your Customer and anti-money laundering regulations. Then you open a bank account, whether it's for yourself or it's for your business. We should be able to perform this transaction remotely, whether we're at home watching the kids, on a business trip, or on a family vacation. We should be able to open a business or personal bank account remotely from anywhere in the world with the same security or better security than we have today. Let's look at accessing and managing healthcare data about us. We all have healthcare data that we cannot control or access or manage today. If you think about the many doctor's appointments that you may have, you or your family may have, if you think about the referrals to specialists, the blood tests, the prescriptions, and then if you think about the personal health devices like smartwatches and fitness trackers, Canadians should have the ability to access and manage healthcare data about them. Now, that would be a significant improvement on its own. But imagine if we had a system where we could disambiguate personal data and we could enable a world where Canadians could donate their healthcare data today. Now, we've all seen on driver's licenses and otherwise where you have an option to donate your organs if something bad happens tomorrow. Imagine the impact and change that we could make if we could all donate our healthcare data today and every day to help fuel the next cure and the next medical advancement. If we had the right privacy by design, security, and use convenience technologies, we would be able to solve and manage healthcare data about us and improve the lives of every Canadian. Let's look at another high-value, high-profile use case. Securing the details to buy or sell a house remotely. If you've been through this process, you know that there are a lot of details to gather, and it can take time. So we should be able to gather those secure documents, those certified and verified statements. We should be able to authenticate ourselves securely and provide those statements and those artifacts digitally and remotely, no matter where or when we are in the world. Those are just a few of the use cases that can impact and change the world by solving for identity. And primarily, we're focused on enabling an economic good strategy. We believe that Canada needs an identity framework that will grow the economy by empowering everyday Canadians with the tools and rules that they need to make good decisions about identity data about them. And we believe that there are benefits for everyone in this new ecosystem. We believe that every business and government will have the opportunity to gain more efficiencies and prioritize citizen and consumer privacy, security, and trust. They'll have the opportunity to create new revenue streams and whole new lines of business that were not conceived of previously. And conversely, we believe that there is a strong opportunity to reduce fraud, to reduce the opportunity for bad actors to take advantage of good citizens, and to reduce the costs and inefficiencies that exist in our system today. Now, solving for digital identity the way that we're envisioning it requires a paradigm shift. And it requires public and private sector strong collaboration to unlock all of the best capabilities of the public sector, as well as the best capabilities and technologies of the private sector, and put those capabilities in the hands of Canadian citizens, consumers, and business owners. Now, if you're listening and thinking about investing in Canada's digital future and the advantages that you can take by shaping Canada's digital identity standards and solutions, we ask you not to go it alone. We encourage you to become a member of Canada's community of identity experts, where we are developing identity solutions and standards to help Canadians use digital identity with confidence. Now let's talk a little bit about DIACC. DIACC is a not-for-profit coalition of public and private sector leaders that was created as a result of the federal government's Electronic Payment System Task Force. Now, the Electronic Payment System Task Force came together to review Canada's payment system during the global financial crash and ensure that we had the best system. They came with two key recommendations. Number one, Canada needs a framework for interoperability of digital identity. Number two, that Canada needs a self-governing body to bring the public sector and the private sector together to enhance the collaboration needed to deliver a digital identity ecosystem that Canadians can use with confidence and trust. So our mission at the DIACC is to fulfill Canada's full and beneficial global participation in the global digital economy by delivering a digital identity and authentication framework for interoperability. And this is just a sample of some of the Canadian and global leaders who are investing in Canada's digital identity future and shifting this paradigm in a way that will secure not only our Canadian opportunities, but global competitiveness. DIACC's mandate is to unlock digital Canada by delivering Canada's digital trust framework. And how we're doing that today is by collaborating to develop the Pan-Canadian Trust Framework. The Pan-Canadian Trust Framework is an economic benefits-focused set of industry standards and practices that will secure interoperability of digital identity solutions and services. The Pan-Canadian Trust Framework is developed collaboratively by the DIACC and the Joint Council's Identity Management Subcommittee. Now, the framework is focused on an industry standards collaboration set of business, legal, and technical guidances. These business, legal, and technical guidances will help governments and businesses to work together to unlock capabilities and to empower digital Canadians to transact with safety, security, and privacy in their everyday lives. And the focus of this framework is to unlock the verifiable identity of people, entities, and relationships. And so if we think about verifiable ID, for example, I should be able to prove online that I am who I say that I am, using identity that's provided by multiple sources, including government and private sector. And I should be able to choose those verifiable sources depending on what kind of transaction I'm performing. Now, if we think about verifiable identity of entities, we think about incorporation. We think about, is a corporation who they claim to be? Are they incorporated? Do they have the right documentation? Are they insured? And to be able to prove, a corporation to be able to prove who they are online with security and with convenience. And then if we think about verifiability of relationships, well, if we take the previous examples, we should have a digital way, for example, that I can prove that I am an employee of the DIACC. So in this case, I could make an assertion that I am an employee of the DIACC, and DIACC could verify that assertion digitally. We could also look at relationships between family, for example. I should have a way that I could prove digitally that I am the mother of a child or the wife of a husband, for example. So this is what we mean by proving the verifiability of digital relationships. And where our focus is on the trifecta of trust, verifiability of people, entities, and relationships. Now, what we see coming forward in the DIACC is the rise of third-party networks for identity. These networks are often user-centered. They leverage choice, control, context, and they enable users to share information about themselves, identity information. And in these networks, we can think about a landscape where requests for data are made, and then verifiers are able to verify those specific requests. So we have data requesters and data verifiers. And in these networks, Canadians or users will have the opportunity to make choices about which pieces of data they verify and which verifiers they use. Now, these networks are coming forward, and there are lots of flavors, whether they're open or closed, trusted or trustless. And if you're interested in learning more about third-party networks for identity, we encourage you to get involved in the DIACC. So how does the DIACC make an impact? Well, we have 3 strategic committees. The first committee is the Trust Framework Committee. And this is the group that sets the foundation of standards and best practices that are needed to secure verifiable interoperability of identity services. And this is the committee that works closely with the Joint Council's Identity Management Subcommittee. Next, we have the Innovation Committee that is focused on the near-term deliverables and the near-term needs to reduce uncertainty for adoption of identity services, to identify those trends that are coming forward and needed by businesses, and to identify those pieces that are required for businesses and governments to be able to adopt this new approach for digital identity. And finally, we have the Outreach Committee. If we think about how complex it can be to communicate issues around digital identity, one thing that we want to make sure that we address is the development of those narratives that are needed to inform decision makers. Specifically, if we were to look at members of parliament, CIOs, journalists, there are many experts who can help influence the adoption of new identity services that respect the privacy and security of Canadians. And the Outreach Committee helps to ensure that we have narratives that explain the needs and explain the opportunities, as well as the benefits to those Canadians. We encourage you to become a member, and membership has its benefits. Sustaining members are those who invest in the future of Digital Canada by investing in the collaborative of the DIACC. There are many benefits and opportunities, and we encourage you to look those over when you have an opportunity. And we have memberships of all shapes and sizes to fit your organization, whether you're a public or private sector or nonprofit. If you don't see a category that fits you, please contact us. We'd love to get in touch with you and understand how we can collaborate together. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. We hope that you've had an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Canada's digital future, how important it is that we advance digital identity that respects Canadians' privacy, security, and their convenience of use, and that you've learned a little bit about who the DIACC is and how we work together to deliver Canada's digital trust framework. If you'd like to learn more, or if you'd like to be a member, please get in touch with us, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us.